Hey, Mompreneur, are you running on coffee, passion, and maybe a little chaos? I'm Sandra, founder of Encounter Your Potential, and I know your life is a masterpiece of messy moments and massive goals. This is Power Your Mompreneur Potential. We sit down with CEOs, founders, and fellow moms to steal their best secrets for boosting productivity, conquering mom guilt, and keeping your fire alive in both business and family. Stop surviving and start thriving. Let's get into it. Hello, beautiful people. We are back, and I'm excited because today, woo, we're in for it. We are having mommy girlfriend conversation with Francilia Wilkins Rahim, and she is just beyond multidimensional. She is a super multi hyphenate. She is juggling all the things, and I need to learn from this girlfriend as well because she is juggling what I like to say big business. She is the founder and the CEO of R.F. Wilkins Consultants, but she decided to not just birth an actual baby about the same time that I also gave birth to DJ, but she also decided to uh, give life to an even bigger baby and business, AO Labs, which I'm excited to get an update on real time with all of you. Uh, Francilia is also award winning. She is very well known in the not just the streets of New York, but in the corridors of New York State. And I have just admired what you have built since we have shared time and space with Grow with Google years ago. Francilia, I'm excited. How are you doing, girlfriend?
I'm excited too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm
Yes.
so excited to be here today with you all.
Yeah, well, life has changed so much. Fill us in. I know that you still have the consulting firm, but now you have AO Labs. So just catch me up. What's going on in your business life first?
So, you know, life is all things really best and all crazy.
Hmm.
Even right before jumping on the call, if you could have been a fly
Mm.
on the wall in this office, it would have been a very interesting and intriguing conversation. We should have captured that for this. But
Some
so,
B-roll.
yeah. Last year, so I've been running RFW now for 14 years. Next year, we're actually having our big 15-year celebration because we have been
Ooh.
a successful business in this nation for 15 years. And I think we need to celebrate it and celebrate all the wins and the ways how we have impacted this world that we serve. And so that is happening. But probably now about 3 years ago, I'm looking at the earlier today, I was looking at the emails and correspondences with this project. But in 2020, we went after this RFP process, which is a request for proposal, and let's just say today it has turned into we are building a 26,000 square foot contract manufacturing facility at the Brooklyn
Mm.
Navy Yard. So we are manufacturing everything from liquids to semi-solids in the cosmetic and personal health space. So that's your lipstick, that's your lotion, that's your foundation, that's your shampoos, that is your over-the-counter medication. And I am building a manufacturing facility that also serves as an accelerator to help brands scale. So folk
Mm.
don't realize that we've already built a facility. And so we have a smaller facility, a 5,000 square foot facility in Jersey. And it is moving and grooving, and we've been manufacturing for all different types of brands and, growing and scaling while we are putting up this Brooklyn Navy Yard facility. So now it's like two different worlds. I own this one company, RFW, where we are contract manufacturing. I mean, we're a business development and management consulting
Mhm.
firm, top 0.1% of Black women-owned businesses, touching all types of projects from the 19 billion redevelopment of JFK Airport, where we do compliance work, stakeholder engagement work, technology. We build technologies to be the buffer or back end of operations, on different projects. So we just recently won another aviation contract with United Airlines. to working with companies like LISC or CDFIs and
Mhm.
banks, to you name it, we've touched, and we build programs and
Mhm.
projects. And now we've birthed IO Labs, which is a completely different world when you're talking about manufacturing. We're doing something that has not been done since Madam C.J. Walker. So she was one of the first
Mm.
Black millionaires. And folk don't know that not only did she create the relaxers, but she had this huge manufacturing facility. And she was able to support diverse and women-owned businesses grow, because she had to
Mhm.
almost accelerate them. That word was not the thing back then. And so we're
Right.
doing something pretty similar, and we're manufacturing for companies all throughout the world. We're working right now with a partner out of Australia. We're talking to markets across, the African continent and the Caribbean, and we're looking to manufacture for everybody. And you can count on your hands, if even one full hand, the Black women in the United States
Mhm.
who own a manufacturing facility. It's just not our world. It is extremely expensive, and that's why you should have been a fly
Mhm.
on the wall on the last fall.
Mhm.
So that is what I'm doing
Oh
business wise.
my God.
It is
Ma'am,
hard. It is
ma'am, where do we begin unpacking all of this? Okay, so first of all, congratulations.
thank
You
you.
are almost at 15 years, but the amount that you have accomplished within that period of time is mind-blowing. You are youthful. So to be doing it all and sitting here on this couch, looking the way that you do, kudos to you, because that sounds very stressful.
Extremely stressful.
I
And
can only
youthful, my knees
imagine.
wouldn't agree with that anymore. I'm like,
Ah,
what has happened to me? Having a baby just changes the body, and we'll talk about that. But
mhm.
thank you for all of that. And thank you, and kudos to you for
Yeah.
all that you've been doing, Mama.
Ugh,
Um, and all the beauty that it is of being Mama and
mhm.
CEO and all things. So kudos. This journey is
You
not
know what? I've learned to receive thank you because that is one thing I did not do a good job of before. But also manufacturing, and there's this whole thing about bringing manufacturing back to the US or into the US. So you are also doing something that is very much timely, and while doing so, creating opportunity for many, which include us.
Yeah, so it's so interesting because now when I talk when we first started building this project out, again,
Hmm.
we're talking now 2020 is when this journey started,
Hmm.
and nobody was talking about manufacturing. In fact, when we
Yeah.
would speak to banks on the financing side, they'd be like, well, how does this make money? Like, what, they just could, we've now spent tens of thousands of dollars just publishing reports with third party entities to show what the manufacturing world looks like and the
Hmm.
profitability there. I'll tell you all, with IO Labs, we're expecting profit at the tune of around 85 million by year 5, right? And that's
Hmm.
if we're aggressive and we do all the things that we need to do. But the reality is, this is a very expensive industry to play in. It's costing me like 20 plus $1 million to build.
Hmm.
But it's also a very profitable industry. And that is one of the
Hmm.
reasons why it's hard for women and just to play in it in the first place, because it costs so much to build out at this scale, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, we're building, we are, uh, doing this thing that's really unique. In 2020, no one understood manufacturing. Now, it's like the conversation at the tip of everyone's tongue. But the reality
Hmm.
is, I don't care how much money you have, you're just not building a manufacturing facility overnight. Like, that's not how it works. It's almost like you're building a hospital, white spaces,
Hmm.
the ventilation requirements, all of the different things. So it takes a
Hmm.
long time. We spent almost $1 million just on architectural drawings, to
Right.
do it effectively, right? And we're not building in Utah, like we're not building in the Midwest or something like that. We're
Hmm.
building in New York City. New York City is already hard and difficult to build
Hmm.
in. And now we're doing this with all the New York City regulations on top of it.
Right.
So, I always say, like, I'm a big believer in God, and I feel like we are positioned, because when this message came that it was the time to do this, no one understood it. Like, it didn't,
Hmm.
the need, the demand was not understood. Now we're so many years in and we're at a really pivotal point. We're at a critical point actually in this build process, but the need is now at least understood. And it's a
Mhm.
game changer that we started this so long ago, because now we're ripe to pick any of the opportunities that do come up in the next few years, because the United States is now interested in manufacturing in the US. And so that's a huge
Right.
deal that we were
Yeah.
primed for it.
Yeah, it's so much of it. You saw opportunity and opportunity where it didn't exist, and a lot of people weren't seeing the vision to begin with. And
Right.
I don't think I ever had the opportunity to ask you, how did this all come up? Where did it come from? I know you're a visionary, but where did the vision come from to create this, and not just create it? Because a lot of people might think Middle America, lots of land over there, but you're thinking Brooklyn.
Right. The craziness. I always say, to be a CEO, to be, and I use that word more than I do entrepreneur, because I feel like entrepreneur
Mhm,
now is being really, really overused. I think that
mhm,
people don't underestimate like what it means when you have to make sure every single week, this was payday today, that, 40, 50 plus people, 100 plus people get paid. And
mhm.
that's a different type of situation. It
That's
is,
another different level of
it's a
stress
different
and
level of stress.
cortisol levels in the belly.
Right. Okay. We'll talk about that. So where did it come from? It all really started from a RFP that came out. Brooklyn Navy Yard had put out this RFP, and it was around the time that everyone was so focused on like Black Lives Matter and all of
Mhm,
that, right? So we're talking 2019, 2020, COVID world, you know, all of that. And a RFP came out, and it was basically like, Black Lives Matter. And like, we need to create more opportunities for our diverse
mhm,
businesses, right, in New York. And somebody told me about the RFP, and they were like, they literally said, "This is for you." They were like,
mhm,
"I don't think there's a single entity who understands scaling business, who's compassionate for the people and the business owners and that journey, but have done it at a large scale, that represents these businesses um, more, just prepared for this than you." And they were like, "You have to go after this opportunity." So we
mhm.
did. We competed in a bid process against 30 other companies. We were definitely not the largest, but we definitely went in there with the intent of like, we had to build. I was 23 years old when I started RFW. I had no money. I had no resources. I was broke. I knew no one. I didn't have
Mhm.
all these relationships that I now have in New York. I had just finished St. John's University, and I was just completely like broke, not even like, I'm talking about negative bank account broke. And, from there, built the company and have scaled it in this time with very little resources. And so that ability to really deal with the hard times. Um,
Mhm.
I have stories about what being broke looks like, in real life. You know what I mean?
Oh, mhm,
And so to deal with those like really difficult times and just push through and then put all of that time, energy, and build a company, the individual thought that we were really primed for this. So we went after this bid. And what we told the Navy Yard when we went after, we said like, look, this idea it was to create an accelerator to scale businesses, diverse firms. We said this idea it's not going to work. Like, so many people, and we've built a lot of training programs and stuff throughout the city, are so
mhm,
focused on like, let's train these Black and brown businesses and build
mhm.
capacity, and women-owned businesses and small businesses. Let's help them build capacity, train them, train them, train them. Yes, I
Right.
do think that is necessary, but I think from my personal experience, and just from the experience of like what it takes to build business in the world, right? That you can train a company till they turn blue. But if you don't
Right.
give them access to money, or if you don't have capital, or if you don't give them access to contracts, meaning new business opportunities, they will not grow. Number one,
Right.
they'll just be really well trained, and they won't have the ability to scale. So it's one or the other. For a business to truly grow, if that's what you're interested in, yes, make sure they're trained, they know how to do. But after training, you need contracts or capital to to try, right, to try to grow,
Mhm.
to make mistakes. We've made mistakes, okay, but if we did not have the opportunity to make the mistakes and figure out how to fix it, we would not be where we are today as a business. We still make mistakes.
Mhm.
But any business, black, white, brown, Asian, other, it doesn't matter. To grow, you need contracts or you need capital. If not,
Mhm.
you're talking about entrepreneurship 24/7, right? But you're not
Mhm.
scaling. And that is what we told the Brooklyn Aviary during this
Mhm.
process, what we shared in the RFP process. We did some market research. RFW is really known
Mhm.
for doing research and all the work that we have. We figured out that, hey, this looks uh, promising, this here health and beauty space,
Mhm.
especially as women, we know how much money we invest in our hair and our skin and
Mhm.
our all things. And for me, I said, I'm not interested in owning a brand. It is not the thing. I'm really not good with social media and visibility as I should be. And I
Mhm.
said, but what I am interested in is the stuff that doesn't look so cute, right? But the not so
Mhm.
cute things is where the money is at. And
Right.
so we said, well, the beginning of that pipeline for any brand is manufacturing, right? And what happens if we can own the beginning of that pipeline, even
Mhm.
own the raw materials, right?
Mhm.
That you need to manufacture. What does that full ecosystem look like? And then we can reinvest some of our profitability to help other
Mhm.
businesses scale. We went after the bid, we competed for about a year of competition.
Wow.
We came up with this really unique idea and we won. And now we are here doing something that is completely out of the box, crazy, and expensive. So
Girl, but think like, and there's so much in that as well, but that takes a lot of resilience, that takes a lot of confidence, self-motivation, one, to even look at the opportunity and to feel that this is something you can go after because some of these RFPs are too many pages of things to digest and understand, and even that within itself is discouraging to then be able to craft the positioning, the story, and then also challenge what they put in front of you to say, actually, I think this will make it a bit stronger and this will give it more life to actually create opportunities. So, wow, amazing. You've mentioned a few things that I do want to highlight. But first, for business to be real, you do need to be in practice. If not, it is fictional. If not, it's just an idea and it remains an idea. So I love that you bring attention to that because there's lots of trainings out there, and we do need to be given the opportunity to actually perform and make a mistake and then still to be able to bounce back from that and to be able to course correct, to iterate, to improve, but just to stay in the game. And we don't always get these opportunities because one mistake can be costly in the end of a business.
absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
one thing that you have not been shy about mentioning several times so far is the cost of this project. And we know that funding is tough. And you mentioned you yourself are in a real time, or you are in a real time situation around funding. Um, Getting this project off the ground has required lots of funds. And that is a place where we have so many blind spots as mommypreneurs often. And we also talk ourselves out of a situation before even giving it a try because of cost, because of what it may cost, because of funding. Tell us about your funding journey because it seems like you have gotten creative around finding and sourcing funds. What are some ways that you've been able to do it?
So the first thing is that I'll say is I am extremely intentional about
Mhm.
talking about what things cost. I do
Mm,
that intentionally. I think we in this world of business, everyone holds everything really close to the chest, right?
right.
And in that way, you
Mhm.
don't necessarily even know what something looks like. And I believe that if you can put language around something and put
Mhm.
color and all things around something, that you will at least know what it looks like, so it becomes more real and more attainable. And I do that intentionally, talk about true costs, talk about realities, because I think that in this world of social media and all of that stuff, like people create the things, but the reality, the numbers don't necessarily work out. And I always joke, I'm like, you go online, you would think everyone, like every woman-owned business is like making millions. And it's like, but the data says there's only 0.1%. So what are we talking about?
Right.
Like,
Right.
what is really going on behind the scenes, right?
And
so,
there's a big difference between making money and cash flow, because
right,
I say often people can look like they're making money or they can actually be making money, but that don't mean they have money.
right. Facts. That is so true. That is so very
You
true.
can still be very poor, making
Right.
lots of money.
Right. And to tell you the truth, the more you start making, the more costs you usually have
Yeah,
and
they're
the
more
less profit
expensive.
margin that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
folks don't understand that,
Mm-hmm.
so how have we battled this, the fiscal journey? It is so real. I'll tell everybody right away, like, if you don't have a good accounting team, if you don't have people with you that really understand how money works and flows and how you can find and search and how to use stuff and how not to use, if you don't have a good bank, multiple banks,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have good banking relationships, and I'm talking about, I have an issue, let me call my banker banking relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You're not playing in this world of money things, because you cannot without those things. So important. But thank God for RFW, because RFW is a profitable business. We're not humongous at all. And we talk about the 0.1%, but it's crazy because only 0.1% of Black women-owned businesses, but 2% of women-owned businesses in the meaning all Black, white, Asian, Hispanic-owned businesses in the U.S. make over $1 million in revenue. And that number hasn't changed in all these years, which is so
No, they'll
crazy.
probably suffer in
Right.
the next few months.
It's probably, to tell you, yeah, it's probably gonna get even worse.
Mm-hmm.
And so we hit our 5 million year. I think this year we're about that in revenue, right? So I will say that after you hit your first million as a company, the rest of it comes, like, your next goal is at 10 million, because the rest comes a lot quicker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with this deal, I'm not gonna lie, it has been extremely difficult. Why? Because
Mm-hmm.
now we're in a situation where we have salaries already on a business that is profitable.
Mm-hmm.
I spend about 400,000 a month in
Mm-hmm.
salaries just for staff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, that's monthly, right? So we're
Yes.
talking about a good 3 million or so plus a
Mm-hmm.
year on just payroll costs.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't only provide very good salaries, I shall say so myself, but we also have very good benefits. So we pay like
Mm-hmm.
90% for healthcare for our staff. Everyone has good, strong Aetna plans. I mean,
Mm.
my staff are over here doing all kinds of crazy things that I'm like, what are you doing? What surgery? And
Correct.
insurance
Let me
coverage?
sign up.
I keep joking. I'm like, I'm paying too much for insurance because y'all, you guys
Mm-hmm.
are doing the things over here. But we have
Mm-hmm.
great insurance, great coverage, medical, eye, vision, all the things, right? So, and plus on top of that, we pay, I want to say 75% for their families too. So we
Mm-hmm.
cover a lot of costs
Mm-hmm.
from the lens of staff. Now, not only do we have to cover and that's just staffing costs. Forget about overhead and all
Mm-hmm.
of that. Forget about the
Yeah.
fact that we're paying $40,000 for rent in Brooklyn Aviary,
Right.
$15,000 for my facility in Jersey, $9,000 for my
Mm-hmm.
office here in Queens, right? So that's just some of overhead expenses.
Mm-hmm.
It is expensive. I probably spend a good $550 to $600,000 a month in
Mm-hmm.
expenses, and that is tough. The good thing is that we have contracts that, we've had long-term contracts that make revenue and come in. The
Mm-hmm.
bad thing is that when we're building a startup facility that does not bring in revenue, once you build the building, that's one thing. But now you have to find the clients, right? And
Correct.
so you're covering all of the overhead costs. IO by itself is probably close to
Mm-hmm.
$100,000 in monthly expenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking about mostly RFW expenses just now, but
Right.
um,
Yes.
yeah. So you now have to cover the cost of something that is not profitable yet. Most businesses
Mm-hmm.
don't hit profitability.
Mm-hmm.
At minimum, I would say the first 3 years you're not going to be profitable.
Right.
So we're just expending money right now and hoping that we
Mm-hmm.
can grow fast enough. I think that the helpful thing is, we have a pretty good fiscal record, beyond having, revenue coming in, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't have, a good enough credit score. I would say we've been getting hit, with all of these other
Mm-hmm.
expenses coming up. But like your credit score as a CEO is critical. My credit score used to be horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely had to fix that because I would not be
Mm-hmm.
where I am today if I did not fix that credit score. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you really should not be anywhere under seven something as a
Mm-hmm.
CEO because it's tough. You're not going to be able to access any money if you are.
Right.
Work on that first because you're not touching anything
Mm-hmm.
else without a good credit score. So that has allowed me to build, banking relationships and get financing. I did not take out any kind of loan or debt for the first 9 years of business. Everything was
Mm-hmm.
we worked with what we made, and that's how I covered expenses.
Mm-hmm.
I think people jump into loans and debt too fast, and if you go too fast, don't know how to manage money and pay back, you really set yourself
Mm-hmm.
up for failure in the long term. And then I think the final thing is just like, because of the ability to pull debt, it's learning how to do it. So we were able to pull an initial $4 million loan to help support. I've put in about 2 million in on the IO side, of my own money, and knowing grants and how grants in the city works
Mm-hmm.
to do different types of business has been really helpful for us. And now we're working on this big syndication with a few banks, and it's been crazy because the banks have been wild and crazy and kind of like, one of them especially, I'm not going to call any names, has really been making things difficult. Let's just say that. And
Mm-hmm.
not even intentionally. They have all good faith and good,
Mm-hmm.
but they've been dropping a ball, and that has been a hit to us. So now we're at a
Mm-hmm.
pivotal point, critical point, where we have stretched September 15th has been my deadline of I can
Mm-hmm.
float these companies until September 15th. And by then I
Right.
need to either close, some equity financing,
Mm-hmm.
um, and close this bank loan to be able to float. If not, I won't be
Mm-hmm.
able to finish my construction and cover these
Mm-hmm.
costs and all of that. So that is what I am dealing with
Mm-hmm.
now. I have a week left to really close
Mm-hmm.
about a good $15 million of financing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it is not a game. It is real
No.
life. It is real jobs.
No.
It's real
Mm-hmm.
everything at risk as we're doing this dance. So
Yeah, yeah. So one, thank you for making time for us as you are in this very critical time period with a very real date and timeline for raising just $15 million. Um, and I think what you share, thank you for being transparent about money as well and the cost of things, because that's also a mindset shift. And to be comfortable talking about big expenses and the cost of big things because they become scary, and they can be scary when there isn't a comfort level, which also speaks to your relationship with money. Personal relationship impacts business relationship with money. And when you are scared money don't make no money. I heard. So being
that's
able
true.
to be comfortable. So thank you for that as well. And what you also have put into perspective is scale, because um, one, you are in a very different place in your business journey. Yes, you are in the top percent of business. Um, and it's important that other people know that one, you don't need to play at that scale. But there are people that look like us who are very much playing in the game and will stay in the game. So you're gonna get the 15 mil.
That's from your
I
lips to
do believe
God's
that.
ears, okay? We're gonna make it happen. We have no choice too. There's
Right.
no choice but to get it done. But thank
Hmm.
you.
Yeah, and also getting comfortable playing with other people's money.
Yeah,
That is a whole nother lesson within itself.
it is. Because I was really not interested in any debt. I don't like feeling like I owe people at all.
Hmm.
Even if it's a banking loan or whatever, I don't like. that's like a real thing for me, which I think it's good, right? Because I'm not going to get into any kind of crazy debt that
Mm-hmm.
that I don't feel like 100% confident that it will get paid back. Um, and so, yeah, it definitely is a thing. And let's not even talk about how family expenses and life expenses
Mm-hmm.
play in all of that too.
Oh goodness.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's, yeah, you definitely have to get comfortable with money and just knowing like it'll be done. With
Mm-hmm.
all the difficulties and hardships, you know, I go to God first and I'm like, God, you put me on this path for a reason, so it has to be done, and that's it.
Yeah, you have been put in this route and on this path for a reason, and you have started to create the segue. So let's just keep going. You mentioned not that's just business, not the personal. So I do know that you are in this new home. Because at one point I was like, Francilia, which address do I send this Christmas card to? So in addition to you building professionally, you're still building personally as well. How are you finding this double act, this juggle of a life? How is it going for you? Because I know for me it's cray cray.
Oh,
Depending on the
it's
day, it's
so crazy.
crazier.
Oh, it is so crazy. You know, we around the same time that we were like going after this
Mhm,
IO stuff, I had bought a house and I was actually pregnant at that time. And I got hit like all at once.
mhm,
We bought a house, you know, we closed December 31st, 2020, so right before 2021. We
mhm,
bought the house. We, you know, had gotten pregnant. We were pregnant.
mhm,
And we, you know, were in this midst of like IO labs and trying to grow all this stuff and just got hit one after another. So we like put all this money into like fixing the house how we wanted it.
mhm,
And boom, May 27th, the house burns down. Right before that in April, I had lost the baby.
mhm,
And so we miscarried, which was like probably 2 days, still one of the most
mhm,
craziest experiences of my life when we talk about Black maternal health. Um,
mm,
insane experience. And we miscarried. The house burns down. My father dies. And now all of
mm,
this is happening back to back to back. Like literally every month, every 2 months, Hakeem and I
mhm.
ended up in the hospital and Hakeem really, really bad. And so all these things happen back to back. And I was just like gutted. And now at the same time, you're being CEO, right? Because no one cares. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it is, you cannot,
Payroll still needs to be run.
payroll needs to be paid. You know, people
No
still,
one cares. No one
right.
cares. No one cares.
Yeah, you
Or
know,
you
sorry
they
for
may
the
not
loss.
even know, so they don't
Right,
care.
right.
Mhm.
A lot of my team did not know. Only a few people knew what was going
Mhm.
on, but you know, people expect for payroll to be paid and things to be met. And so over the last, you know, from 21 to I would say now, like there was really 24. I feel like was like the reversal year. I do think that you get hit with things,
Mhm.
and it's in preparation for what to come. And so
Mhm.
I went on this whole journey of trying to get pregnant again. When I miscarried, it was crazy. I like
Mhm.
miscarried in, you know, for days, weeks. I
Mm.
was like losing, you know, blood and all that stuff. I don't want to get too gory, but
Mm.
miscarried for a while because the medical care was poor. Like the medical care was
Mhm.
just, I didn't have good, efficient doctors to like do the basic things to stop a miscarriage and tell me like, hey, you don't have to be in this type of pain and stuff. So I really was almost unable to walk for like a month after I miscarried. And it was mentally just crazy. You know, I felt like, oh, usually, you know,
Mhm.
you get things done and this and that, and you can't hold the
Mhm.
baby. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you can't carry a child. And that was actually mentally devastating. I took that really, really
Mhm.
but you got to keep going. And so after the miscarriage, after all those things, we then spent time trying to get pregnant, and I could not get pregnant. And we're trying all
Mhm.
these things. I'm on all these medications. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm trying to get pregnant. Trying not to go the IVF route.
Mhm.
And finally, like, yo, what's happening here? Like, we're 4 years later, I wasn't able to get pregnant. So end up getting pregnant in 2023, July 31st, basically my birthday.
Mhm.
We took a vacation and boom, guess
You
what?
just needed to go
A
to
girl
somebody's
needed a break.
you
Forget all.
needed to Correct. The good old fashioned way.
A good old fashioned break is what I needed. My body was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so you want to sit down now? Fine. You
Mm-hmm.
are deserving. And so
Yeah.
I was able to get pregnant and had an extremely difficult pregnancy. I was on high watch. I had some of the best doctors in
Mm-hmm.
the nation. Okay. Those doctors saved my life. Thank God. They were expensive. I probably spent out of pocket $200,000. Not probably.
Mm-hmm.
Out of pocket, I spent over $200,000 on medical care. And, and we have the good insurance. So, my
Correct.
doctors were top in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And they took care of me. I would walk into my appointments. I was in that doctor office every week, sometimes 2 weeks. I could pick
Mm-hmm.
up the phone. They were there. I walked in. Nobody else was in that office except me. Like it was that type of care. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it, but it was worth it. And I wish that everybody has a
And
perfect
that is what it should look like.
right of having the type of care, because if I did not,
Mm-hmm.
I would not be here today to speak on this.
Mm-hmm.
But I had fibroids during my pregnancy. I still have fibroids now. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
my uterus has not gone down. I still look pregnant behind this camera. And it's because of the fibroids. I need to go do another surgery. But the
Mm-hmm.
pregnancy was so difficult that when I gave birth, they had to do a vertical C-section. They had to do get rid of myomectomy real time while giving birth. And
Mm-hmm.
then because they don't do all those things, uh, a, another surgery to tie up my uterus, basically,
Mm-hmm.
um, real time. So all things were hard and difficult, but I birthed a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful baby Asta, and he's such a
Mm-hmm.
sweet kid. He's so smart and all the things. He's our mini
Mm-hmm.
CEO here. Um, uh, at the same time, I was building a house. So while pregnant, the house that burned down, I was building.
Mm-hmm.
And if any of y'all have ever built a house, you
Mm-hmm.
know what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
Mm-hmm.
not cheap.
No.
Go
You
talk
don't
about
pick cheap things, right? Like life gives you
it.
the most expensive things.
Was not cheap building that house. So all things, and I think the balancing that act there to bring it all back home on the fiscal lens is that you it is I'm not going to underestimate how hard it is. Thank God for RFW and having a
Mhm.
business, because
Yeah.
I had to pull out, like, we had, insurance policy, which insurance, they fight to not pay you. But I had to pull out a whole lot of money,
Mhm.
just cash, to be able to finish the building of this house, right? And then you build a house and you have to buy furniture and all that stuff. Shout out to Forbes, my designer, two black women out of Atlanta. They
Mhm.
beautiful layout, working with the GCs
Mhm.
to build my house. And shout out to the Politanis, Dan and Mel, for building a
Mhm.
beautiful, beautiful home that we now live in now. So long and short of it, really a balancing act with expenses. Sometimes things get paid, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have to be
Mhm.
delayed, and sometimes whatever, right?
Mhm.
But just communicating around it and doing the best you can do is what I have been tasked to do in this journey,
Mhm.
and not to be ashamed of it. It happens to everybody.
Right.
It is the reality of
Mhm.
the situation, and you
Right.
figure it out, and you just try to keep your credit score good, all at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that credit score, keep the
That
credit
credit
score
score.
good.
Oh
Yes.
boy.
Wow. So your story is really one of resilience and mental fortitude, because lesser things have broken people, and you have been thrown some serious curveballs that you've been able to manage. But I also think that it's a personality type, because you are not an entrepreneur, you are a CEO, and that CEO fortitude and that CEO mentality, I think, has also allowed you to play in this personal space the way that you do, because it's not easy either.
Very true.
Yeah.
It is not easy. But you know what? I thank God, because, I have third world issues. I mean, first world issues, I would say, not third
Mhm,
world issues. And
mhm,
I, you know, this is what I asked for, right? So I said I wanted to be a business owner, and I said I wanted to do all these
mhm,
things, and it's not going to be easy. I want to be
mhm,
a mom. I
mm,
think being a mom is the best thing that I have ever done. Like, this journey is hard.
It's not easy.
This motherhood thing is not a game. Like, when I first gave birth, I just physically could not walk for 3 months. You know, the reason why I have not done the surgery that I need to do is because it will take me out for another few months where I will physically not be able to move in the way that I should be. When I gave birth, you have this little human now that you need to protect. Forget about
Right.
expenses and all of that. You're protecting their
Yeah.
brain and their body and their skin and their,
Mm-hmm.
their mental and their sanity and their growth. You have this person that now you're investing in and saying, I want you to
Oh
have
my
the things
God.
that I did not have.
Molding and protecting from the world. And as little
Right,
Black boys, it just means
right.
so much more.
It's so much more. And I look and I
Mm-hmm.
hear certain things and I'm like, I have a little Black boy now. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like your life. Like, I don't want you to be exposed to like
Mm-hmm.
what this world does and how it shows up sometimes. And it just changes you mentally. Kids just, oh my gosh, I remember the first time I dropped my child. Like, this is the kind of thing that happens with moms. I was like, I'm the worst mother in the world. He was on the bed and I
Mm-hmm.
jumped to, went to go run to the bathroom or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
poof, and you would have thought the world had ended.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the types of things that change you mentally. Beyond
What?
being changed mentally, I was changed
Mm-hmm.
physically. And the
Mm-hmm.
mindset of like, well, my body isn't what it used to be. I can't fit the clothes I
Mm-hmm.
was fitting. I have to be
Mm-hmm.
now CEO and in people's faces, and I don't feel like I look good. And
Mm-hmm.
how am I going to deal with that
Mm-hmm.
and get back to where I expect myself to be physically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different world.
It's a different world. I had a night. Well, one, motherhood means there are many nights where sleep just does not happen and you're operating like a zombie. Sometimes you realize you're awake, especially in the early days. But
Hmm.
I remember there was a night where I took DJ from his crib and I was home by myself. My husband wasn't home, he was traveling for work. And I brought him into the bed with me. And normally he's good. He knows how to come down. We taught him how to, come down from the couch in the bed, feet first, do it carefully, careful, careful. And I don't know what it was about this night, but I had to go use the bathroom. And he went and wanted to follow me, but he went head first. Like he dove off the bed. And the way that I went like an athlete to go save the kid, but still he fell. But the way I went after and then still slid to try to go catch, like just instinct, but still he fell. And I just felt like the worst human on earth because then it was also dark, so I could see but not see all of it. My God. And then just the panic and the rush of it all are the things you just, they're gonna happen. You can't really sometimes mitigate for all the things, but then also the feelings and the rush that comes after it, it's
It's
next
tough.
level.
It's tough. I think that kudos to our mothers. I think, having grace with ourselves is so important
Mm-hmm.
because it is not easy. The sleepless nights is all right. Shout out to all the women because I didn't sleep for almost the first year, and Asta was in the
Mm-hmm.
bed with us. He didn't even do the crib thing. He's still in the bed with us. Okay. And we are 16 months, what,
He
16?
like your bed better. Why his
But,
bed?
right. And he's still there. I should have listened to everybody and got him out. I'm still trying to listen to
Oh,
everybody.
DJ was out at 3 months.
But listen, I keep saying you do
Gone.
so well with that because I'm just like, can I put him in a crib by himself? Like, it's, and so now he's so used to it. Breastfeeding
Mm-hmm.
is not a
That body
game,
heat.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm still breastfeeding, and
Mm-hmm.
my boy eats food and he has teeth. So can you imagine, the pain and agony, And we're like, okay, now we have to try to get him off. He's old enough, and he's like, nope, this is
Now he's like, no, I
right,
know this goodness. Don't
right. He's
deprive
like,
me
this
of
is
the goodness.
he's like, no, no, no.
No,
And,
no.
and all of the things. So I think as women, we need to give ourselves grace as much as we
Hmm.
can, and it's not going to be perfect. None of this stuff is perfect. To tell the truth, it's not meant to be. This is the life journey.
No.
we need to, we grow, we learn, we experience. And that's the
And
reminder.
all kids are different.
Yeah,
All mom baby situations are different,
right,
and there is no playbook.
right,
We won't be the first nor the last to have kids, but in every scenario, one thing you can be sure of is that there is no mother child pair that has been here before.
right,
So it will be new, and every day is a learning experience. And I have really come to, for me, to terms that in this current state, one, I waited for longer. People would say, we waited till later in our lives to have children.
good,
Motherhood is my ministry. I love it. I love being this little boy's mama. But I'm also unapologetic about still pouring into the things that I created beforehand.
right,
And that's why these conversations I find so meaningful, because there are people like you out there who are pouring what they have into their families. I love that you didn't, one, put your family life to the side. As you built your consulting firm, you also still created space and you went after it to have your family. And I think that's important. I've always been passionate and always believed that we can have our marriages, we can have love, and we can have our families, and we don't need to compromise for growing professionally.
right, right.
Now, I know we're getting close to our end time. One thing I appreciate about you is that you have a Sunday ritual that you are unapologetic about. And you were the first person I have heard have their Sundays in this way. So tell us more about your Sundays, because I put it under the umbrella of a non negotiable, and it's a you non negotiable. So tell us more.
Oh yeah, Fran-Day Sunday. It
Mm,
actually started. So it's so funny because I think my husband
mhm,
Hakeem is, well, I don't think my husband Hakeem is like the completely different. He completely opposite from me. Like he is
mhm,
complete yogi. Your health and wellness, your being, and all that kind of stuff person. While I'm like, get the work done. Figure it out. Meet the goals. Da 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 da. He's like, and yogi your mind. And
mhm,
so I think we're a balancing act for each other, right? That's why we were positioned here to balance each other out.
mhm,
And when I first gave birth, it was nonstop. The baby was on me feeding. I was the only feeding. I was the only this. I was the only that. And I reached a point where I'm like, I need a break. And it was him who said, okay, well, go take this one day out and go, do whatever you need to do for yourself.
mhm,
And I was like, okay. So I took my first one day out and I was like, oh, I see. And so
mhm,
this is where Fran-Day Sunday started. And I was like, we're going to call it Fran-Day Sunday. And don't even call me. Like, I do not exist in this world on Fran-Day Sundays. And I just made that intentional demarcation of I
mhm,
pour every single day of my week into my family and into my staff.
mhm,
And I just knew I would not physically be able to do any pouring if I did not have some time for myself. And I
mhm,
knew that with a guttural understanding that I will break down and I will not be whole me and I will not be able to serve anyone if I didn't serve myself. So I started off with like going in the spa. I probably go to the spa like every week at this point. Going to the
You
spa.
living
And
a
I'm
good
talking
life.
about full spa.
Mhm,
I'm talking about getting a
mhm,
massage. I'm talking about getting a spa. I'm
mhm.
staying there all day. I'm eating whatever I want to
Yes.
eat. Okay. I'm getting my
Mm,
nails done. I will get my hair, whatever it is. I'm going to church. Whatever it is,
mhm,
I feel like in that week that I need to pour. If I want to spend
mhm,
time with friends on Friday, Sunday, if that's what's going to fill my
mhm,
cup for the week, I'm going to spend time with friends. Don't call me. You won't see me
mhm.
till 10 o'clock. Okay. That's when I will, and maybe later. All right. That's when I'm getting back in the house. I'm leaving early in the morning. I am not
Mhm,
preparing anything for baby, for husband, for work, for anything. I'm
mhm,
not taking work calls. I'm doing whatever it is I feel that I need to pour into myself.
mhm,
I might go read
mhm,
a book somewhere on the beach. I
mm,
might go do, something to feed me and let
mhm.
me balance. And I will tell you, smartest decision. We started it
Wow.
then. I've had about a
Mhm,
year at least of Fran Day Sundays. I don't play
Mhm.
with my Fran-Day Sundays. If there are once in a while instances, and because of that, my husband
Mhm.
doesn't play with it. Because I do
Mhm.
think that if you don't put the boundaries in,
Correct.
they will play.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't have
Yeah.
the boundaries, and now my
Mhm.
family, they don't play with it. They know, like, even my mother should be like, oh, I was calling you and you didn't pick up. And I'm pretty sure it was Fran-Day Sunday. My friends know about Fran-Day Sunday. So
Mhm.
everyone now engages me in the way, like, she will not be around on Sundays. Don't expect to
Mhm.
find her.
Mhm.
And if you do, if you're the person she's choosing to spend that time with,
Right.
then y'all doing what you're doing, and it's gonna be
Mhm.
what she feels like she needs to feed herself.
I
I would
love
recommend
it.
that to everyone. And
Mhm.
I will tell you, I'm the type of person that every type of responsibility I feel like in the household touches me
Mhm.
in some way. And it was hard initially to say, okay, I'm leaving the baby, or I'm leaving the household,
Mhm.
I'm leaving whatever, and don't call me. But guess
Mhm.
what? I don't feel guilty about it at all. I think
I'm
that it is
sure.
the most critical piece of my time right now is having
Mhm.
that day where I know it's mine and everyone understands. Don't talk to her. Don't, just leave her alone. Let her do her thing,
Yes.
because she needs to be full to serve
Mhm.
during the week.
Ooh, it sounds so liberating,
Yeah,
to have that day, but also how powerful it is for you to have that ecosystem and that support system to allow you to have your friend day Sundays. Because that is a privilege within itself.
right.
But you also created space for it to exist. And I think that's also a big part of being empowered to take ownership for your own life. So you can show up for all the things around us.
Absolutely. And I think that for all of us women, it can start small.
Mhm.
Like it can start like, okay, I need an hour every day, 2 hours, 2 hours every day.
Mhm.
It can start like, okay, this is my 30-minute time of every day,
Mhm.
right? Or every other day. It might look different for everybody, but there's a
Mhm.
level of, if you don't establish a space, and it's not
Mhm.
intentional, our loved ones and the people who, you know, they're used to getting from us,
Mhm.
they're just so comfortable with what the status quo is that they
Mm.
may not be the ones to say, okay, well, take the time for yourself.
Right.
And they
Mhm.
may say that you need it, but they may not give you the space for it because they're so used to receiving from you in the way and time that
Mhm.
is the norm. So there's a piece of it where we can't expect anyone to give us that time, because we need to set the authority, the boundaries
Mhm.
around it, for us to be successful. Shout out to my mom too for coming in she understood how hard it was for me.
Mhm.
She lives in Rhode Island. She drives to New York. She's here right now. We had
Oh.
a big family loss this week, and she's like, okay, I'm coming. Shout out to
Mhm.
her for showing up every 2 weeks to give me my space, and
Mhm.
to add a little more house to our household. So no matter what your
Mhm.
family situation or your construct is, just finding the little morsel of time that you own for yourself is so
Mhm.
important, and it'll truly change how you engage the environment around you. And that's what I've done with Fran-Day. And it's gonna stay like this forever. I'm gonna have Fran-Day Sunday time like 9 to 5. Okay. They ain't nobody talking to
Awesome.
me on Fran-Day Sunday. And that's what it's
Awesome.
gonna be.
What an amazing place to wrap up our conversation because you are the true epitome of what I call not just a CEO, but a CHO, Chief Household Officer, where you said not many things in your house happen without touching you, but you also took the authority to also share with your household team that this is what I need in order for all of this to work.
Absolutely.
And that is a huge learning for me, and for I'm sure will be for many people, and also make it your own. It can start with 30 minutes, it can grow into an hour, it can be several pieces of the week. It doesn't have to take place in the way that it shows up for Francilia Wilkins Rahim, but make it your own. So with that, thank you so much. I know we can definitely continue the conversation. I will be getting behind the wheel tomorrow. to pay you a visit. I'm gonna be knocking on that door. I got to get there
Come on
before
over.
Sunday.
We got time.
We have time. But I appreciate your time. I do understand the pressure and all of the things that you are working to navigate. And I am grateful and appreciative. And I know that many other people are going to find this conversation helpful as well. So thank you for joining me and communicating and sharing how you have powered your mompreneur potential.
Thank you so much. And thank you for creating this space for moms all over. You are dynamic and beautiful and fabulous. And thank you for creating the space to allow people to, feel whole and received. And everything that you put out is going to come back to you 100-fold. So keep doing the amazing work that you're doing.
Amen, sister. Amen. Thank you. If you found this advice helpful, give this video a thumbs up and drop your biggest takeaway in the comments below.